here, and hopefully a few more will join since Georgia mentioned we had 48 register for this evening. So we're just going to go ahead and do quick introductions. We have, there's not too many here, so everybody can go ahead and do that. We'll just say basically your name, if you have a particular role or some things you've done for the campaign, where you live, that would be awesome. My name is Cindy Black. I live in Shoreline, Washington. I am currently the volunteer campaign director for Whole Washington.
Yay.
Georgia? Maybe just popcorn it, and so you just call the next person.
Okay, Georgia Davenport, volunteer field director for Whole Washington, and I was the campaign director for the 100% volunteer effort in 2018 to collect signatures to get on the ballot. So very happy to be here. Leah, how about you next?
Okay, I'm Leah Perkle. I live down in Vancouver. I gathered signatures last time we did signature gathering. So unfortunately, we're not going to get to do that this time, but I'm a big supporter of Whole Washington. And I got a Net Cleveland sign going up in my yard, so I guess I'm going to have a conversation with that lady. Because her husband brought it by. But he did vote for me to be a Bernie delegate. So that was good. And then my husband's next to me. He's a big supporter of Whole Washington. He's down here as well.
I am.
Thanks, guys.
And his name is Steve, because we didn't say that yet, right, Steve?
Yep, he's the chair of the 49th down here.
Oh, nice.
I'm filing with the PDC right now.
Yeah, he's also going to be running for to be on the charter review down here in Clark County.
Good. Cool.
Go ahead and pick the next person, Leah.
Sherry Lambert.
Hi, I'm up here in the 42nd district, north of Bellingham, Washington, and I'm retired from the healthcare profession. I was a radiological technologist, and I've really been concerned about healthcare and the direction it's been going, and was collecting signatures for I-1600. And I just had a conversation with Rick Larson, and he supports improving the Affordable Care Act. He is not supportive of Medicare for all or healthcare for all or whatever. So, and I think if the Affordable Care Act had been implemented the way it was originally planned, we wouldn't be at this. We're already at universal health care. So I can see that point of view too. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having this forum.
Go ahead and call the next person.
Casey?
Oh, okay. I'm Casey Starling, and I'm in the 24th Legislative District, and I hope I'm a Bernie delegate. I don't know. We haven't heard the numbers yet. I'm also fading away off of this thing. I'm also a registered nurse in primary care in Port Townsend, and I haven't been able to get to too much volunteering yet, but you know, when Bernie dropped off the ticket, I put out there to all our folks, hey, this is where we go from here. You know, it's not him, it's us. And so we gotta throw in with Whole Washington. So I hope there's several of us right in this area gonna bunch together and do that for you. And oh boy, Masha.
Thank you, Casey. I'm Masha. I'm the volunteer fundraising director for Whole Washington. I'm coming out of West Seattle, so I'm in the 7th Congressional District. I'm really excited to be here tonight, and I'm excited for our agenda. So I'll pick the next one. Sarah, have you gone yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Sarah De La Fuente. I live here in Vancouver, Washington. I'm the vice chair of the 49th. I I'm a big supporter of Medicare for all. I've, my family has, I mean, we've gone through several periods of not having health care. Right now, for the first time in years, we have it actually, and my husband didn't lose his job, so we're just lucky at the moment that we have it. But I just believe it's a human right, and I'm strongly support it. Have for many years. I did collect some signatures for Whole Washington last time. I was looking forward to collecting signatures again, but unfortunately it doesn't look like we're going to be doing it this year. But anyway, I'm looking forward to doing whatever I can to move this forward.
Yeah, please pick the next person.
Oh, I'm supposed to pick the next person. I'm sorry. Let me see who else is in here. Sorry. Who else? Cindy Black.
I've already gone, so I'll pick the
Oh,
next.
sorry.
How about Randy?
Sorry.
You're on mute, Randy. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
My name is Randy O'Brien. This is my first time to one of these meetings. I don't even know if I'm at the right meeting, but here I am. It looked like it might be something for leaders, and I'm not particularly a leader. I'm more of a participant, but I live in Spokane. I collected signatures for Whole Washington in Spokane last time. I've also been to meetings for the Healthcare for All group. So, you know, I just keep thinking that we need universal health care in our country. I think it's great to start with our state. I see our state as a leader, kind of place for good place for it to be starting off with. I'd like to get more involved. I didn't even know we weren't collecting signatures, but that makes sense, doesn't it? I work in healthcare, and so I see, and I've taught in healthcare. I taught nursing for 16 years for WSU. I just retired from that, but I still have a active practice as a psychiatric nurse practitioner. People complain about Medicare. I think Medicare's fine. I like seeing clients on Medicare. I have no problem. And that's one thing I like to argue with folks when they, oh, Medicare, it's terrible. It's like, Medicare's easy to work with. Medicare's not a big problem. A big problem is when people's insurances are changing all the time. And, you know, they're working with me and they're my clients and they have nice, easy to work with insurance. And now the pandemic, I've had many people that lost their insurance. They quickly signed up for some alternatives that now have $10,000 deductibles, so they might as well have no insurance. And I don't know, I'm just here to learn. I'm here to participate. I think we're slow. I don't know if there's anyone else here from Spokane, East Side.
Georgia's in Spokane.
I think I met Georgia. I think I met her at the Women's Club, and that's when the one meeting about this, where your husband was there and you had a little baby, correct?
Well, she's 8, so maybe that wasn't me. But there.
Oh, it was a girl, little girl.
And a girl, a girl. But yeah, was that the Barnstorm?
I think your husband played the banjo.
Different person.
Oh, that's not you.
But that's good that there's so many of us who have like different talents.
In Spokane, yeah.
And then folks that haven't gone yet, how about Courtney? Sorry, I caught you while you were taking a bite. Sorry.
That's right. I'm Courtney Love. I'm in Tacoma, Pierce County. I'm on the board of Whole Washington. I'm involved with Our Evolution DSA, and very excited to move things forward. We're in a position in a time where almost anything is possible.
Yes, good. And Amber?
Hi, I'm Amber King. I am in Mountlake Terrace. presently a block inside of Snohomish County, but still fulfilling duties in King County. I am also with Our Revolution and Bernie Kratz, as well as active in the 32nd LD and King County Alt Rep. And I also have many years in administrative healthcare work, billing and management, and have been a strong ally and advocate.
Great, thank you. Laura? I think you're on mute still.
Oh, let me unmute
There you go.
myself.
There
Oh.
you go.
Okay. Hello. Oh my gosh. So it's like, it's the second meeting that I've been on today for Whole Washington. I feel like everyone shares something so meaningful, and it's the nurses that brought me to Whole Washington. I guess that's what I want to say. It's Catherine Lewandowski who brought me here. Shout out to Courtney Love, who is here in Congressional District 6, and just, we have to hold our coalitions together. However we're choosing our activism right now in Whole Washington is definitely, and Washington Bernie Kratz are definitely a hub that I believe in very much. And I will just continue to knit and spread the word that we can be creative for Medicare for all. And I believe that Whole Washington can be leaders in healthcare justice. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Laura. And Kim?
Hi, I'm Kim Harmon, and my video will just freeze if I have it on, so forgive me. But I'm in Tri-Cities, and I'm just a volunteer, and I don't have anything very inspiring to say either. Although I did get the decal from Holly, and I actually got it on my car window today. So I will take a picture of that and send it, or I can post it to the volunteers Facebook page. And I talked to my naturopath today, and she's in Bothell. I'm in Tri-Cities, but I still work with her. She's in Bothell. And I asked her if she knew about Whole Washington, and she did. She says she gets the emails. So anyway, it was just good to hear that, a provider knew of it. So that's about it. I'm hoping to also help out in any way possible.
Great, thank you. And then I apologize. I left the men for last. So Mark?
Hi, I'm Mark Crew. I'm in Des Moines in the 33rd LD. Excuse me. And I collected some signatures for I-1600, and want to see if we can come up with a with a way to get this across the finish line. But I always tell people, you either believe in universal health care or you're wrong. And I will send it over to Blaine.
Thanks. Hi, Blaine Jensen. I'm a volunteer, have been since signature gathering last time around, and I live in Seattle in the 36th LD.
Great, thanks. I think that's everybody. Go ahead, Courtney.
I did come late, so I didn't know what all the things we were supposed to say about ourselves. Laura said I was in the 6th. I was in the 6th. I'm now in the 10th Congressional District, Denny Heck. But we're both in the 27th LD, and that means that we are in the LD of the Speaker of the House, who is also on the Healthcare Committee. So I think that's important. And I have worked as a phlebotomist at Tacoma General Multi-Care Systems, and I also have training in massage therapy.
Great, thank you. And then Justin just joined us. Justin, we already did introductions, but you can go ahead and introduce yourself and just say where you are and if you have any particular role or what you've been doing with Whole Washington.
Well, hello. I'm sorry I'm late. I've been working on taking care of a couple of candidates that I'm consulting. So
no worries.
All of them having concerns. Well, okay, Justin Baird, newly arrived in the last 6 months to the 37th Legislative District in the 9th Congressional, formerly of the 36th. in the 7th, where I was always there at the table pushing for whole Washington and aggravating and analyzing. I have to say, as an aside, that even though I thought I lived in green pastures, I first came to the 37th and thought they were a rather sleepy bunch, and already I'm on the e-board. I mean, they're like, great, sure, here you go. And there's a level of engagement I'm able to do because even though they're just as mixed politically as the rest of the LDs, I have their confidence. So I think I'm going to be even more successful in getting more people recruited and volunteered there.
Great. That's good to hear. So tonight's agenda, we're going to talk a little bit just to give you a quick update on what's happening with the campaign. Georgia's going to talk about some upcoming events. So is Masha, about fundraising. And then we'll have Cindy Jacobs that's going to come on here in a little bit and talk about an upcoming project. So I'm going to save that for last. But let's first start with Masha and give us a fundraising update and what you've been doing.
All right. So yes, I'm really excited to report back on this last week's event for Giving Week leading up to today, which was Giving Tuesday. So today's not over and we're still waiting for the final numbers, but from the first Monday of sending out the email mentioning Giving Week to today, we've had 68 contributors and we're at $1,844. So I think that's really great for a 1 week project. And I don't know if we're actually waiting to get the 200 from the event for Friday, which was the CD fundraiser. So we didn't do that good with that event specifically. And the Wickland family was really kind and generous to still donate $200, even though I think we only had like 4 sales and 7 lists. And so it was really, really low turnout, I would say, for that specific event. But in general, I feel like it was pretty good for our first week with, having less than 70 people get involved. That's almost 2,000. So I'm pretty proud of that. Today's not over yet, so I expect that number still to climb. So that's that part. We've got a few events happening, and so we're still working on fundraising every single day. Some of our events that we did last week were even, for example, on the happy hour, healthcare happy hour call, we discussed doing like a little fundraiser for that event specifically and trying to reach a goal. And that day we had a pretty good number of donations at the end of the day. So I don't know if that's necessarily always the reason why we end up, having better days than other days, but sometimes it's just, a certain amount of people decide to check their email that day, and sometimes it's something else. I did listen to a really great webinar last Friday that really gave me some good tips for ways to fundraise right now and just kind of, be able to really connect with the people that care about this mission. And it's really about, we're all in it together. It's not anybody's above anybody else. We're all in this mission for universal healthcare. And that's really what's going to continue to help us unite and be, one strong, movement pushing forward. Friday, we do have a really fun event happening. It's going to be another play off of the healthcare happy hour. We're doing a 5 o'clock happy hour, and we are going to be doing this Facebook Live as well. So we'll be able to reach out to quite a few numbers of people. Hopefully we'll get a lot new faces and just people who might not know exactly what Whole Washington is, but really support the mission of universal healthcare. And so we'll have a very educational talk from Cindy Jacobs from the nursing side and some of the kind of FDA sides, more of like the government, what they're doing in our state right now, and regulatory work. So it'll be really, really juicy, a lot of good information, things that I think people would love to hear from just one source that has a lot of that insider scoop on it. We'll also be fundraising during that event, and this is all leading up to Sunday, which is Mother's Day, and I'm hoping that we'll get some more sales these next couple of days of the Red Berets, because I think this is a great Mother's Day gift. You get to give your mom some beautiful flair, and you get to support universal healthcare, which your mother definitely deserves that. So we're going to continue to let our supporters know if you guys want to whatever you guys care the most about sharing about whole Washington, that's what I always encourage. I think coming from the heart and just speaking your truth is always going to resonate the most, because you can just say it as is and it's easy and it really comes from a genuine place, and people feel that and they can really hear what you're trying to say, and that usually sparks something within themselves. So that's all I'll say about that, but I'm really happy with the results we've had of this week. So thank you everybody that got involved, opened our emails, passed it on. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Masha. It's nice to have someone that regularly works on raising money for the organization, because so many of us don't want to do that. And so it's nice to actually have someone that actually enjoys doing that. And I think you're doing a fantastic job. And it's that steady flow of money coming in that makes a real difference. So thank you for that. And now I want to turn over to Georgia to just talk a little bit more about the happy hours. And Masha mentioned the event on Friday coming up, which is another happy hour / fundraiser. But let's talk a little bit about what you've been doing with those happy hours.
Yeah, sure. Before I get started, I know Laura had something to say. I think it had to do with the berets. So
Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
Oh, let me unmute you. Hold on. There you go. You're unmuted.
I know it's very short. It's just like, it's literally looking at the workmanship of Georgia's, and oh my gosh, what is our amazing fundraisers? Our Masha, just have a look at the detail on her beret. And I know that Fran has been donating, and there's someone else who deserves a shout out, who is another crafter that's on Twitter. Crochet deserves such a huge shout out. I just want to say, please go and look at the different crafters that are on there. I love knitting, but if you will look at the berets that are on there, crochet is definitely a medium, and I just have to give a shout out to crocheters and the people that have done the work that are online. So thank you.
Oh, of course. Thank you. Really appreciate that. I also want to mention that today I got these in the mail. So
amazing.
Yeah, it says "We need Medicare for all," and you can go on our website. I put the link in the chat, but you can order one of these. And I was going to go to the post office and ship all the berets and the masks out today, but they were closed for lunch when we went by. So you still have time to order tonight or tomorrow early, and we can get these shipped to you tomorrow. So events. We have had so many events on Zoom recently, some great happy hours. We've partnered with the Chris Armitage campaign to do healthcare happy hours every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m. And we started out the first 6. We started out calling the governor, which was really difficult because it was long hold times. One person had an hour and a half hold time. So it was pretty brutal. But then last week we switched to calling our representatives to encourage them to co-sponsor or sponsor and pass the Whole Washington Health Trust. And it takes like 30 seconds to get connected to a staffer, and you get to leave a message for 3 people and the governor all at once. So it's a lot more fun, and we get more time to kind of just chat and talk about healthcare, talk about what's going on in our lives. Today was a great one. We discussed next Tuesday's healthcare happy hour, where we're going to call Senator Bernie Sanders' office and thank him for all the work he did on Medicare for All and request his endorsement of our effort. So we had a really great healthcare happy hour today, where we listened to some songs and we talked about that effort. So check your email about the effort on Tuesday, because we want to put a compilation of people singing this Red Berets song together and play that for Senator Bernie Sanders on Tuesday. Thursday's happy hour is really exciting. We have the main healthcare staffer from Representative Pramila Jayapal's office joining us to talk about her new Emergency Medicare for All Act that during the COVID-19 crisis would get everybody onto Medicare. And she's going to talk about that act and how we can help get that passed. And then Masha already talked a little bit about Friday, which is COVID-19 informational panel talking about Washington, COVID-19, and then Masha's going to talk about our fundraising efforts too. So I put all the links for those events in the chat. Again, if you have trouble accessing the chat, let me know. And one last thing I'll mention is Tuesday is National Nurses Day. So we're gonna also be doing car parades that day. There's 2 up on the website already, one for Eastern Washington and one Renton area. I think a few more people on this call are planning some in different areas. We definitely want to focus on West Seattle because that's where Representative Eileen Cody lives, and she's the chair of the House Healthcare Committee. And then also Vancouver. Is Leah still on? Yes, Leah's still on the call. So we want to do one for, Annette Cleveland too, because she's the chair of the Senate Healthcare Committee. So if we could get those 2 areas covered, that would be awesome. Again, you can go to our website. You can either try to find one in your area or click to host one in your area. I'm happy to take any questions about any of those events if anybody has any.
Questions for Georgia or for Masha? Go ahead, Mark.
So I have a question about, I received the email about the Red Beret song, and I guess I'm a bit perplexed as to how it will come together if we each sort of sing separately. So I'm not sure if you could elaborate on how that works.
Yeah, so we have someone who is with the Seattle Peace Chorus who has done this before. The Seattle Peace Chorus tried to do some Zoom choir practices, and it did not go well because the way that Zoom operates, or any sort of conference call operates, is if one person is making noise and it starts cutting other people off. And also because of the internet, there's a delay for some people. So it's just a mess if you try to do it all at once through a Zoom call. So what he does is he has people record it, just the whole song, just go through the song, record it, send it to him, and he compiles it into a Zoom conference. So it looks like everybody's on the same Zoom conference call and singing at the same time, but they're not. It does take a lot of work for him though, so it's very time expensive, but I think it's going to be a great sort of video. At the end, he showed me one he did before, and it really looks great, and we can share it on social media afterwards. We can put it on YouTube, we can put it on Facebook, Twitter, all that. So it's going to be really nice at the end.
Good for him, because that's way above my pay grade.
Mine as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of syncing involved of people singing and yeah, I applaud anybody willing to do that. So anything else? Any other questions for Georgia or Masha right now? Okay, then I'm going to jump in to talk about a new project that's coming on board, and hopefully Cindy Jacobs will be here in a little bit to discuss it a little further. But basically, in a nutshell, is for those of you that don't know, obviously we can't collect signatures during the COVID-19 crisis, so we are postponing the initiative portion till next year, unless some miraculous thing happens, which I'm seriously doubting. But there are many things that we can do now. These events that we're talking about, putting pressure on legislators, are a big deal. And I'm going to have Blaine talk. I forgot Blaine's here too, and he knows a lot about this as well. But basically, there's an opportunity for us here to put pressure on our legislators and governors to get some things going, at least during the COVID-19. For example, we can get resolutions through city councils, county councils to support these type of reforms. emergency reforms for COVID, but then maybe even longer term reforms for Medicare for all, universal health care. So what we want to do is Cindy has created a couple of different documents that we're going to be sharing with people. One is a resolution that will actually share with council members, city councils, county council members, to get them to officially sign on to a resolution that they support these particular reforms that we're asking, emergency things to make sure people protected toward during COVID. For example, we know a lot of people have lost their jobs, which means a lot of people are losing their health care. So what do those people do? Some people might be eligible for Medicaid, but some people may not. So it leaves a lot of things. So we want to make sure that people are covered. If they get sick from COVID, everything's covered, no copays, no deductibles. We want to make sure that that people have an opportunity to maybe find some type of at least temporary health care plan they can sign on to, like Medicaid, if they're unemployed and don't have insurance, those type of things. And then there's a few other more technical things that Cindy can get into. The other part is a letter to our legislators that we want to put pressure on our state legislators as well as the governor. The governor would be a separate letter because we'd ask him a specific thing like, we want you to do these things under his control, but to request an emergency session in order for us to be able to get some of these other things. And then the letter to the legislators would be more about those type of asks. What we're planning to do is a whole campaign around this, and where we'd have like ongoing actions. We're thinking over a month along, maybe the month of June. And so we have time to ramp up to that. So what right now we're looking for a team that's willing to put this campaign together, because we're going to have online petitions. We're going to set up online letters to your legislators so you can directly send one so you don't have to do it. We're going to try to really set up some tools to make it easy, and also through the Whole Washington website, so we can collect the data and build our support base on top of this. So we need people interested in coming on board, helping out, and helping us plan it. And it doesn't have to be a big committee. We have a few already. Blaine, would you like to add anything to what I said? Did I miss anything there?
Well, no, I think, you know, Cindy has a lot more detail about this. This started off as an outreach to Seattle City Council, and we got Tammy Morales' staff. She's really behind it. They're really behind it. They actually recommended that we go with this sign-on letter to the governor to take emergency action because for some technical reasons, but essentially any calling a special legislative session or anything like that right now is going to have to revolve around the pandemic specifically, and of course we have a bigger goal. So the ask is going to be for to city councils and to our state legislatures, 2 different sets of letters. It will be asking, number 1, for endorsement if they haven't endorsed us already, and then the other thing will be is, as Cindy kind of outlined, a sign-on letter to the governor. And that's got some very specific language about things that could be done immediately to benefit people, and during the pandemic to sort of put some elements of our Whole Washington Health Trust in place. So it's pretty exciting. And then of course, as you mentioned, the individual petition. So there's a lot to do, but it'll be pretty easy when it's all put together, it sounds like, in these tools.
Yeah, it's just getting up to speed in there. And then Cindy Jacobs just joined us, so we'll have her speak to this in a little bit. I just want to see if there's any questions before we jump into that. And I just want to also say the reason why we want to do a campaign like this is, first of all, we have a whole lot of volunteers and people sitting around, and this is an opportunity to actually say, you know, we can be advocates for people around healthcare issues, even during COVID. We don't have to wait for the legislature to make demands of our legislature and our governor. And I think we can use the energy, the momentum, the people power that we have to do this. Any questions before I hand it over to Cindy Jacobs? Georgia.
I just have a quick addition to what you just said. If our bill passes through the legislature, the governor will have to sign it. With an initiative, he doesn't have to sign it. But if it passes through the legislature, he will have to sign it. So if he hears from us and a bunch of other people way in advance of that, then the likelihood of him not signing it is, I think, greatly lessened.
Mm-hmm. And it keeps whole Washington relevant in a time when we should be relevant, right? We can't go out and collect signatures for initiative, but we can be proactive in things like this. Other questions, comments? All right, I'm going to turn it over to Cindy Jacobs. Cindy, thanks for joining us. And she's been the one that's crafting these letters and petitions that we're going to adapt into some online tools. Do you want to talk a little bit about the asks and what we're specifically going to be asking for?
Sure. I thought I was going to be able to get on a little earlier, but I was in another meeting. So I escaped from that one, which ran over. And when I joined, it sounded like Blaine was talking about kind of in general.
Yes, we were just giving people a rundown, and we didn't get into any real specifics yet about what the ask.
Okay. Yeah, because I didn't want to plow ground that's already been covered. So basically what we're looking at is two different formats for getting so one pathway is to just get a request made to the governor to do certain things. He does have a fair amount of emergency power, but it's limited by the pandemic itself. And one of those things that he can do is call an emergency legislative session. And I don't know if anybody heard his press conference today, but he said there is going to be one. He just doesn't know when. He indicated that he was pretty sure they were going to have to do some kind of an emergency session. He didn't go as far as saying absolutely for sure, but he sounded like he had pretty much arrived at that decision, but the timing was up for grabs. So we may have to tweak our letters that, from that perspective. And I'll go back and re-listen to the press conference just so I can verify how he actually phrased it. But anyway, so one of the things that he can do is convene an emergency legislative session, and we would like him to do that. And so the ask letter is basically going to go to two groups. One would be local and regional council members. And if they sign on to it, so it's going to look like a petition. They would have a version of their own that they would sign on to that would go to Governor Inslee to say, please call a special session. The other thing that they would be so that our legislators can do some work that needs to be done by the legislature, because he only has so much that he can do. The other ask in that letter would be to ask him to, because he can waive and suspend laws and put certain things in place for up to 60 days, would be to prohibit any Washington healthcare coverage carrier from charging premiums, copays, or deductibles for anything related to COVID. And we would like to have that be actually expanded to any type of healthcare premiums, deductibles, or copays for the pendency of the pandemic, mostly because of the huge economic hit, and because healthcare coverage is a mess already, which we're putting in the letter as well. So there's going to be a second version that would go to state legislators, so representatives and senators, where we would lay out the same information for them, ask them to also sign on to a special petition for them to, again, ask the governor to do those same two things. In the letter that we would be sending to the legislators, we would also say, and when you get into this special session, our request of you is that you support and vote for however many pieces of Senate Bill 5222 you can enact as amended to address the pandemic. We specifically called out the capital gains tax piece of it because that would be a source of getting some revenue that is going to be badly needed from the people in the state who are the wealthiest. So basically, and then we'll have a version of the petition. It would be the same ask of the governor that just anybody in the state could sign. So we're going to have 3 versions of the petition. And then we have 2 sets of letters that we're hoping our volunteers and anybody else we can get would actually send to their local and regional council members as well as their state representatives and senators. So that's a lot of, long story short, right? Questions?
Yeah, questions. I know that's a lot, but basically, you know, we have a letter to the local, jurisdictions, a letter to the governor, letter to the legislators.
Right.
And then we're going to have, and then the goal is to set up some tools to make it easy for people to participate in these type of actions. So they can just click a couple of buttons, fill in their information and send it off. And so that's the type of thing that we're going to need some work on. But questions for Cindy about the ask and what we're trying to do here. Does it all make sense to everybody what we're doing? Georgia, I see your hand up.
Yeah, so Justin's had his hand up for a while. And
Okay, I'm sorry, Justin, I didn't see that.
And then I see Courtney also, so.
Okay, let's do Justin and then Courtney.
Well, I wanted to dovetail in on exactly what Cindy was talking about. So I want to make sure that we're real clear on there's a strategy we're not talking about we're going to have to do. Now, when the governor calls for a special session, it is for a specific purpose. When the legislature is in session, there are committees and hearings and things that go along in a certain click. A special session is generally because they didn't get a budget passed, and so they don't do business as usual. They're locked down on that one issue.
Right.
The reason why the governor would have to do a special session is because the areas of the Emergency Powers Act that allows him to do the things that he's doing have 2 areas. He can suspend laws for collection of fees and certain things for only a certain amount of time.
Right.
And this is where you hear the right wingers saying, well, this is unconstitutional. Well, it's not quite true. He gets a certain period of time he can do this before he has to get legislative approval. So he would be calling the special session specifically to get approval to continue those things. So when that would occur, they would not be doing any other business, including what we want them to do, because they'd be specifically looking at these bills that he wants passed. That's where we have to change our strategy, because we already know that we have to tie this into, this is the only way to get healthcare that's falling apart. Apple Health is going to fail. Insurance companies are going to fail. And so I think instead of not just going after Cody and Cleveland and the governor, we have to find a way to get through the majority leader so that they will change the agenda, because that agenda is built around the governor's order for the special session. And you could get all sorts of legislators behind this, but if you don't have the agenda makers bending that agenda to accommodate this, then we won't go anywhere. So I'm thinking that we need to look into how that strategy would work. And I don't know who to call. And I suppose if my brain wasn't hungry right now, I could think of it, but I think we need to get some LAs involved, some legislative aides, people who work in the legislature, who deal with this paper all the time and work with these agendas, who would know who we could talk to. And maybe Senator Hasagawa, who's my neighbor here about a mile away, he might be able to tell me as well. But I think there is a political strategy at getting it on the agenda, because we can bang on pans all we want, but unless we actually know where to hit that lever, they're going to have a special session and we won't even come up. So
yeah. I'm also curious to know too, to see what the governor's agenda is, and if there's anything to address healthcare already on it, because we don't know that.
And we don't know that. We don't know that because, and that was one of the reasons that one of the asks of him is going to be to do something related to healthcare, because then they've got to take it up.
Excellent points, both of you. Excellent points.
Yep.
Because as long as we can tie it into, yeah, you're right. This is exactly what you guys are talking about.
Yep. Yep.
And then
So,
Courtney, I know Courtney was wanting to say something as well. Courtney?
Yes, excuse me. In reference to a little bit of what Justin was saying, and I have friends at Wolfpack. I mean, I know that Cindy Black, you are you know about lobbying in the legislature as well, but I also have connections at Wolfpack, and they have insight on the legislators and their aides and the like. So, and they're willing to share that information with groups who are looking to push legislation. And then my other thought was, do we build coalition in support of this ask? You know, like ask local DSA chapters and REV and like everybody to sign on. Healthcare is a human right. Like, do we build coalition? Like, do we make it a coalition ask or just a whole Washington ask? But so yeah, that was where I initially was discussing. Do we want to just put the ask out as whole Washington or as a collection of healthcare advocates? And
well, anybody can sign the general petition.
But you're right though, we haven't talked yet about how many people or organizations we want to bring into this, doing this with this or work in coalition. Originally conversation that Cindy and Blaine and I had, and then Georgia and Masha and a couple others, is that we were just going to focus as a whole Washington project. But if we have specific asks that other groups might also want to jump on board, obviously working in coalition helps our numbers, that's for sure. But we haven't, approached that yet. I think we're still in the planning stages. Literally, this was discussed over the weekend. And so we're brand new with it. So are there people that would be interested in working on this project on the phone here today? Besides, I've already, Cindy Jacobs is already on there. She's already on that committee. And Georgia.
My fear is that I've overextended myself right now.
So to the coalition question, I think that there are several people on this call who are part of organizations that I think would happily sign on. So if at the next board meeting, if you have board meetings or whatever meetings, if you bring this up and say, this is what Whole Washington's planning, I think we should sign on as a coalition partner for this effort. That would be great. Like Justin is the treasurer for the Washington State Progressive Caucus. Courtney is the vice chair for Our Revolution Washington Bernie Kratz Coalition. And also Amber is the secretary of both. So like if you're part of an organization, the 49th LD, Leah, if you're part of an organization that is a natural ally to Whole Washington, I think you sending this information out to your lists, your database, sharing it on your social media, that would help. I mean, the more people and organizations share it, the more likely we are to put the right kind of pressure, the right amount of pressure on these legislators to get them moving.
Georgia, that's an excellent point. My only question is, I think I might have been distracted with cooking. What is our timeline on getting to a certain point by a certain time?
Well, the goal was to maybe launch this campaign by June 1st, or right around that time. But if we hear
a coordinated campaign.
Yes, a coordinated campaign that gives us time to work on it and getting ready to launch in June, which means we'd be getting all the letters, the tools ready to go. If we can bring on other coalition members and to sign on and be a part of this, that's fine. We can do that in that time. That's why we wanted to give ourselves a little bit of time to build the project up, so we're not just like slamming it together last minute here. And but like Cindy said, if the governor decides to call an emergency session sooner than later, then we may need to scramble a little bit quicker. So that's why I think we need to jump on it now when we want to start planning this project so we can get as far ahead as we can with it, with the goal of launching it June 1st, but knowing that we may have to run with it a little sooner if that happens. And right now on the people that I think are going to be on this subcommittee for planning this is, besides Cindy Jacobs and Georgia and myself, is Blaine. I'm hoping Blaine will keep on working with us on this. Masha obviously is part of this. Is there anyone else on the phone? Amber, I see your hand going up. Great. Amber King.
I was also going to mention too, if we could put together like a one-pager in the next week, that can be presented to LD meetings in the next 2 weeks.
Well, I was going to say possibly a white paper for us to have a center point where we have stuff with links to all these handouts. If you have one document that has all of us agreeing on the same spots and timeline with links to these handouts, that would be groovy.
Yeah. So that's why we need to have a planning meeting so we can assemble all this kind of stuff. So right now, is there anyone else on the phone that wants to join in on, because what I'm going to do is send out a doodle poll and we'll go ahead and plan a meeting, and then, probably later this week, if not early next week, the latest.
Hey, Georgia.
I wouldn't mind being on that list.
Who is that? I'm sorry.
Courtney.
Courtney. Thanks, Courtney.
Georgia and Courtney and Amber, Justin here. Knowing that I'm going to be flying from one thing to another and knowing that I'm probably overextending, I feel like I really need to be amongst you and doing what I can. So will you tolerate my running 2 minutes late to everything?
Well, I feel like that speaks for me as well. So I'm counting.
In 2 minutes I don't have any problem with that. I'll put you down to question, and then we'll go ahead and get a planning meeting doodle poll out. I'll have that out by tomorrow. And then we'll go ahead and start planning what we need right away, get a timeline going, what we need when, and then we'll start rolling everything out. Does that sound agreeable?
Yeah. Sounds great.
Okay, we're coming up on 8 o'clock and I want to respect everybody's time. Is there any other comments, questions? Anything else anybody wants to say before we wrap it up for the evening?
Please come to the Thursday and Friday happy hours. If you can make either one of those or both, please do it.
I'm getting confused on all these happy hours. There's happy hours 3 days a week now.
This week is special, Justin. We have that Friday event, and that's going to be our educational talk about regulatory events happening in Washington State and just COVID practices for healthcare. So it's kind of a first thing that we're doing. So it's a little bit extra special.
Well, I feel really bad because I keep, here I'm the bartender and I keep showing up to these happy hours with water. But I had a really bad morning and I had 3 meetings going at once. I had the old phone that's on Wi-Fi, the regular phone, and I had Karen's Bernie group over here, and I made a fucking Bloody Mary, and you didn't get to see me drink it because then I had to then run the meeting for Karen. So my apologies for having a bloody behind your back.
I think you're forgiven.
Oh,
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Georgia. Were you saying something?
No, I was not important.
Okay. Just thank you to everybody. And Georgia, you are going to put an email blast out about those 2 happy hours on Thursday and Friday, right?
I already have.
Great.
Do more.
Put out another one.
We'll do more.
Put out another one. Remind people, get them to RSVP to that thing. Courtney, you had your hand up?
Yes, I guess it's for the good of the order. Tacoma DSA and specifically the healthcare working group and the labor working group are working together and seeking coalition on a 30-day sick leave bill of right, or bill for workers, and so that's on the horizon. It's pretty much written now, and it's coalition. So I might share that information with Whole Washington. You know, I don't know. However, they're whatever official means they're sending out for coalition around it. I'll be sure to share it with Whole Washington.
Great. Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you,
All right.
Courtney.
Thanks everybody so much. I really appreciate the energy. Thanks to the new people for joining us. Hope you learned something and see what we're up to. Please come back and hopefully see you around at one of the upcoming events. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.